Hi, friends. Welcome back to Grace and the Growth podcast, where Beth and Micaela dive into birth trauma stories, talk about all things birth, motherhood, yada, yada, so on and so forth. So we're so excited. Today, we have our first guest on our podcast, our first birth story. I have known this someone here for how long? Like a year? Man, when I heard her story, talk about officially lighting that fire under my butt to talk about birth trauma, obviously at its core, but like she interviewed a midwife, hired a midwife, fired a midwife, interviewed another midwife, had a home birth, thought she was doing all the things, and this is something I would have done. All women that want to leave obstetrics, leave the medical system, have a birth trauma-free birth, like do the natural way, you think, oh, well, I have to hire a home birth midwife. You know, I'm doing the right thing. I'm interviewing, I'm asking the right questions, going by your God-led intuition. And this is all the things she did, and still a midwife just stole her birth, lied to her face, said she wouldn't do things that she ended up doing, and it just officially lit that fire under my butt that, like, even if you are asking all the right things and think you're hiring the right person, if you're not prepared, things can really, really go wrong. So a first-time mom, thinks she's and spends the money, man. Like, you spend the money for this kind of stuff, like a couple grand for it to just severely traumatize you, your womb, your baby, your husband in your own home space. It hits home, and we're literally in the home that it happened in. So I introduce you, my new best friend, Hannah. Ah. And we're going to talk about her story. So, Micaela, what's up?
The first time I heard Hannah's story, it took me weeks to process because I had no idea at the time that midwives were so far away from what midwifery was because I'd never hired a home birth midwife. So I thought it was better. But then I heard Hannah's
Right.
story and I was like, it's all the same stuff.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it took me weeks to process because I had no idea that they were doing this stuff.
Yeah. I agree. Honestly, it took me a long time. I'm sure, obviously, it took you a long time, but like somebody who has been diving into birth stories and has had traumatic hospital births, has had a traumatic birth center midwife birth, and then you think the only next step is to hire a home birth midwife.
Mhm.
What else are you going to do?
Yep.
We
And
literally have
yep.
no idea.
You think you're like 100% safe. That's the extreme.
Right, yeah, like that's that's the extreme. Hiring a home birth midwife.
Mhm.
If you just want to like take us from the beginning and tell our audience the story, and then we'll kind of break it apart as we go.
So yeah, I found the first midwife through word of mouth. She had nothing online, no website, no Facebook, I don't even think. Maybe she did, but I just told all my friends. I was like, listen, tell your friends and your mother's friends. Like, if someone could get me in touch with a midwife, I'm looking. And specifically for home birth, my friend got me in contact with some midwife, and then she couldn't take me, but she goes, I have another friend who's a midwife. And so anyways, ended up with this first midwife and texted with her, and she was wonderful. I mean, she gave me an hour interview for free and was just like, ask me anything. See if it's a good fit. Like, see if I'm a good fit. I'll see if you're a good fit, and we can talk as long as you want.
How far along were you?
I might have been like 6 weeks, just, early in the pregnancy. And I had already found my doula at that point. Loved her, so don't mind saying her name. Haddon King. She was, let me know when you find a midwife. We'll, get in touch with her together and blah, blah, blah. So I found this midwife, called her, it went well. She was awesome. She goes, call me when you hit whatever weeks it was, 10, 12, whatever. I called her again at that time. And nothing was official, really. It wasn't, I'm for sure your midwife. It was still, let's meet, have an appointment, see how things go. And she was really upfront with me too on the phone call about pricing. She's like, listen, I don't do payment plans. This is my cost. Every time I meet with you, it's $100. Pay for supplements, obviously, things extra. She did an iron test for me my first appointment. That was an additional cost. But yeah, it was great. And she gave us her delivery price, and I was like, we can afford that. That's great. And it was $2,500. I asked all the questions. Is there, no payment plans, has to be due by delivery, which is actually quite common. A lot of midwives and doulas and whoever, they'll say it's due by the delivery. Start paying now, and then that would be a payment plan, but it has to be fully paid by the delivery. So I'm having that in mind. Had the appointment with her. She did the Doppler. It was so exciting and fun. She was wonderful. I met her coworker. I don't know if she was a midwife. They were not certified midwives. They were
Lay midwife.
lay midwives. That's right. And they explained that to me. I told them, will insurance take you? And they said, yes, it should cover us 100%, but we don't actually take insurance. You just need to like finagle your insurance company to get them to cover us. And I was like, I've never dealt with an insurance company. So I'm thinking like, okay, you're telling me that's possible. Give it a go. And she was like, I've had one client in the past do that successfully and got her insurance to cover. And so I was like, okay, wonderful. Like I'm thinking this is going to be completely paid for. But in the off chance that we couldn't get the insurance to pay for it, I knew we could afford the $2,500. So I moved forward with her. So we had the first appointment. It was the only appointment we ever had. Went well, left. And as time went on, I want to say it was over the weeks. I mean, I was calling the insurance company at least weekly, if not like 3 to 4 times a week for months.
Oh my gosh.
And because she kept saying to me, you got to finagle him, you got to finagle him. And obviously I want this sorted out before the birth. So in the midst of me making these phone calls, I get an email from the midwife, and she had sent me a receipt basically from the first appointment, laying out everything I'd paid for.
An itemized receipt.
Yes. And it had all the future visits scheduled and what they would cost and the delivery fee, which was $2,500. As we discussed, I think a couple weeks went by and the insurance company for some reason said, well, send us that. Let's see that.
Right.
Wait a
And
second. So I'm going to stop it right there because you talk about a delivery fee. And I think that's also where we're seeing midwives develop this ego, claiming that they deliver babies, and it's taking away from the empowerment of the mother. Like
Yeah.
even in just that itemized receipt.
Yeah, like here's
Wow.
all of what I'm doing for you.
right.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you're the one actually doing the work. They're just there to write it on a document.
Right.
Man, how do they get off saying that you need to pay before the service happens? I don't like that, coming into becoming a birth worker and wanting to get clients. Like, I don't think I would charge you before the delivery. That's rude. I don't know. Do you pay for your meal after you eat your meal, right? Like you pay your hospital bill after you're done at the hospital.
It's because they try to bamboozle stuff out of you.
Yeah.
Right.
Like if you're trying to get paid up front, I have another client that's delivering. Sorry. Now you have $2,500 in your pocket and you're with another client. No, I don't like that. And that's standard.
Right.
That's standard for a home birth midwife is they're charging you prior to anything even happening.
Yeah. And I had total, like, she's telling me, like, well, just in case clients run off and don't pay us.
You know what I think is also weird? She predetermined how many times you would want to be seen by her.
Yes.
Yeah.
Here's all the appointments you're gonna need. And the iron test? Heck was that for?
Well, she did ask me, like, how are you feeling? And I think I did tell her I've been feeling
faint.
maybe dizzy, faint, fatigued, something. And I look back and I'm like, why didn't she tell me just, like, are you eating steak? What are you eating?
I would have given you a spoonful of honey and salt immediately.
Honey and salt,
right on the,
yeah.
right
Are
on
you
the
drinking
spot.
water? Which I said, no, I'm not drinking a lot of water. And she said, drink more water. But anyway, my point is my nutrients, like, are you going out in the sun? No, I'm working a 9 to 5. I'm not going out in the sun. Like, anyway, but she did take my iron, said it's low. Again, could have upped my nutrient intake easily at that
So
point.
she sent you to a lab?
No, she took it right there. They had a birth house at the time. We were in the basement of this church. And the birthing situation's upstairs.
Of the church?
Yes, which I didn't see because I was going to birth at home. But they had it available. You could birth at the church upstairs. Didn't see it, didn't view it. But they had lots of women do that. And they had mostly Amish clients. I was one of her first English clients, she said. I think I was the first. But
This is like underground midwifery.
yeah, it was a very bizarre situation. You're like going through tunnels. There's curtains everywhere. But it was like they had legit equipment in this
Church building.
Yeah. And there were lots of Amish people when I was there.
Is that a way around these rules? Like, if it's in a church, am I allowed to do whatever I want? Take iron levels right there? Because if she's not certified, how do you just take somebody's blood and send it away?
Well, and she told me right then and there.
As a lay midwife.
Yeah. She's like, you're low in iron.
What?
Actually, it was so annoying because she goes, my shoulder is messed up. let me take it. And I was like, why don't you let the other woman do it? And she was just like, no, it's good. I got it. It hurt so
So
bad.
she stuck.
It was
she
like a
stuck you.
finger stick.
Oh, finger prick. Okay,
Yeah.
so she had a little machine to
Yeah.
read it.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And it was like wobbling. She's like trying to hold her arms straight. I'm like, oh my gosh. And I swear I felt it in my fingernail. My doula's there, my husband's there, and they jumped back like watching this happen. And I'm not bad with needles. It hurt so bad and I didn't cry or anything, but I just looked at her like, I don't think you should have done that. And are you going to be healed by the time the baby comes?
Yeah, your
Like-
shoulder, your weird wobbly shoulder.
So,
How old was this woman?
oh my gosh. I mean, 32, I think.
Oh,
She's young. She's young. And her coworker, same thing.
On her now website says 15 plus years of experience.
I know, which is something after she told me. I remember saying to my
If you're
husband after the
32.
phone call interview with her, I don't understand her age then. Like, was she 15 when she started? So maybe she was. She told
She's
me
just-
she started
that's a-
training with these Amish midwives. And then
That's
they,
adding-
as they died off or retired, left her this church building. And the Amish elders were like, well, now that it's just you, it's not our Amish, women. We don't want you doing this for our women. We want Amish midwives. And so
Wow.
that's what she was telling me the day of my appointment was. But yeah, the age, I was like, what? Were you 15 then when you started?
You can't say that. I don't know. That'd be like if I was to tell people that I have 10 years of birth experience when I don't. Like you can't just say
Yeah.
that and con people.
I've been a nurse since I was 6. I
I've
put a
watched-
Band-Aid on my brother.
I've watched Amish women hug a tree and squat
Yeah.
for 15 years,
Yeah.
and now I think I can take an iron test in the
Yeah.
church basement.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was that iron situation. We left that appointment and I reached out to her probably once a week saying like, hey, they're still telling me no. Insurance says they will not cover you. You are not a certified midwife.
Right.
And she was like, all right, you got to keep asking for the boss's boss and the boss's boss's boss. And you need to get to the high coon with the top of the, leaderboard
the
here.
CEO of UPMC.
Right. And I'm like, okay. So I kept calling.
She says I can swindle you guys.
She told me one of her clients successfully did it. And so finally I get on the phone with this woman. Her
You were
name's-
the first English client, though.
Yeah. Well, that's why I'm like, I couldn't have been the first. Like, there had to have been another one.
Somebody's
Because Amish women don't have...
Lying.
Somebody's lying.
Because later she guilt trips me and she's like, when I was in the process of firing her, she's like, you conned me. I didn't have a contract because you were my first English client. Now you scarred me from taking more English clients because you conned me. I'm learning
sounds
my
racist.
lesson from you. And I felt horrible. Like in my head, I was like, I know I had no bad intentions. I know I didn't do anything wrong, but she is so convinced I've conned her and mistreated her.
You gotta rewind to where we fired her.
Yes. So I reached out to her probably for like the 100th time and I'm like, listen, I'm getting uncomfortable because I'm getting further along in my pregnancy and I don't want to feel like I'm stringing you along to get to my birth and then I can't pay you. So insurance, I called them. One of the times I called them, they said, send us over this itemized list that you're talking about. So I reached out to the midwife again and I said, listen, I lost the first one you sent me. Can you send me another one? She sends me another one and I noticed
The
that
$1,000.
the $1,000 had been added to the delivery fee and it was now $3,500. Like this was none of her business. And I shared this so she could really understand my position. We physically did not have that money in our account. Even if we wanted to do something to raise that money, at this point, there was no time. Like there was not enough
Right.
time for us to do something like that. So in the spirit of being upfront with her, I called her again and I was just like, hey, listen, I didn't call her out. What's the word? I don't know. My fault. I did not call her out for that. I didn't say, hey, I noticed this number changed. You've never mentioned this to me. Is this a mistake? Is this a legitimate change? What's the deal? I didn't call her out on that, but I did call her and say, listen, I want to reiterate, I cannot afford your delivery fee. And she was just like, well, you just need to call insurance again. So we call insurance and she, this woman, I'm like, can I talk to your boss? She's like, yeah, here's my boss. Puts me on the phone with Brandon. Brandon's like, yeah, we are not going to cover that. And I was like, can I talk to your boss? She's like, yeah. He's like, here's Jesse. So I'm talking to Jesse and Jesse goes, honey, I'm sorry. She's not a certified midwife. we are not going to cover that. And I don't know why she's telling you that we ever have. The thing is, the midwife not only told me that someone else had successfully gotten their insurance to cover her, she said they had the same insurance company as me. So I was like, okay. She's like, there is no way. And I said, can I speak to your boss? And she goes, I don't have a boss.
I own
I
this
was like,
company.
oh, okay. Or a supervisor, whatever. She's like, there is no one higher than me. And it was at that point that I reached out to my doula and I was just so weepy.
The
Like, I was like,
stress
what do
on
I
your
do?
body, I mean, at that point in your pregnancy is so unfair. I mean,
Yeah.
this is trauma before the trauma has even happened.
Yeah.
Like, that is so not cool.
Yeah. And I'm Googling, I'm like, appropriate ways to tell your midwife you can't afford her. What, like,
Oh,
is it
gosh.
appropriate for me to ask her, like, hey, could we work something out? I don't want to overstep. I don't want to make her feel like I don't value her experience, her education. At the time, I'm thinking these things. Now I'd be like, if your ego's in a twist about me asking and saying I can't afford you, you're the problem, not me. My doula said, you should not be stressing about something like this. You should not be considering selling a car to have a baby. What we need to do is look for a different midwife. I fought her on it. How could you? I love this midwife. And she was like, well, you came to me with this problem. I'm giving you the solution. Like, we need to look for a different midwife, I think. And she was so gentle with me. And I was like, you're right. You're right. So I was so sad. I was like, oh man, I really liked her. I liked her partner. I just loved it all. And I reached out to the midwife. I think I did a text because I was so sad about it that I was actually afraid to tell her. And I wanted to make sure I didn't stutter or get cut off or not fully explain, like, I'm coming to you with, I'm so sad about this. I'm not firing you because I don't think you're worth it. I cannot pay you. I go in, I text her this whole thing. I've just so appreciated you. I've so loved you. I'm so sad about this. And this, she kind of turned against me, but I said, like, talk to my doula. I've been so stressed out about this. She encouraged me, if this is really that stressful for me and if I really can't afford it, I should just look for a different midwife that I can afford. She didn't respond to me for about a week, I think, and then texted back, can I call you? And it's so funny that even though I loved her and fully, like, trusted her, I remember thinking she's going to be rude to me and I need to get a notebook and pen so I can write down anything that's crazy. And I made sure my husband was in the room and she was on speakerphone. Like, I was like, this is going to be
Yeah.
bad.
I can't
just
believe she
know.
didn't respond to your text for a week.
How far along were you?
At this point, my first appointment was at 16 weeks. I might have been like 26 weeks, 28 weeks. Hadn't got me in touch with a few midwives. Like, I texted both of them. One was not a certified midwife, so I didn't even bother with her. And the other one was, and that was the midwife I hired. And I had texted her right away. And I had told my current midwife in the text, I have found another midwife. I'm going to interview her. I just want to be upfront. She calls me and she lit into me. She was like, can't believe you're doing this. Like, I feel so disrespected, so dishonored, all these things. And I was just like flabbergasted, like, what? And she goes, I was gonna have at our next appointment a contract for you to sign, and you would have had to hand over another $600 as a deposit for my services just in case something like this happened. So now you've conned me out of $600. My immediate response, thank God I did have enough gut to say this back to her. You have never mentioned this contract or $600 in the last, I mean, I've been with her since I was like, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, something pregnant. You never mentioned a deposit, a contract, totally reasonable things, but you've never mentioned them. And you're mentioning them now that I'm telling you I'm looking for a different midwife. So she's like, you're conning me. And she goes, I've talked to my coworker and she said, F you. And, I was like, what? What? And she said, yeah, the other the coworker had said, if she meets with this woman, the other midwife, we're firing her as a client. And I was like, well, the whole point is I'm looking for another midwife,
You're
but
fired.
okay.
No, you're fired.
Right. Right. I mean, it hurt my feelings so bad. I remember it was weeks. Noah could not console me. I
This
was
lady is
so
lucky I
devastated.
didn't know you.
And the worst part, she actually turned things around and was like, also, you're doula is a POS because she was telling you to look for a new midwife that shows no loyalty. And I was like, she's my doula. She has no loyalty to you because I'm her client, not you. She's doing what's best for me, as she is supposed to. And I was just so annoyed at her for getting mad at my doula. And actually, I remember as she was ramping up and like coming at me, I remember getting very angry. And then I thought, as soon as she brought up my doula, I remember checking myself and being like, you have to be nice to her, because I didn't want her calling my doula and yelling at her. And she said, I'm going to reach out to your doula. And my doula, I was like her first client. She's young. I felt like almost responsible for sending this midwife to go yell at her. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, what if, my doula fires me because I've sent this midwife after her, which I don't think my doula would have done, but I was still in that, protective mindset for my doula instead of even myself. Like, I was just letting her tear me to shreds. My husband's sitting there going, give me the phone, give me the
Oh
phone.
my
And I
gosh.
was like, no, we can't yell at her. We can't yell at her. He was
Oh
just
my
like
gosh.
staring at me like, we're
Oh
letting
my
this
God.
woman talk to you this way. Like, so finally she goes, if I'm telling you, she repeats herself. She's like, I'm telling you, if you meet with this woman, we will not be your midwives. And I said, okay, I understand. And she goes, no, did you hear me? I'm not going to be your midwife. And I was like, I understand. We're parting ways. Have a good day. I wish you the best. And hung up on her.
Oh my gosh, dude.
And immediately called my doula, and she was like, she's going to call me and yell at me. And she did end up calling my doula. And she said to her, you need to tell your client to pay me the $600 deposit that she's like calling me out of. And my doula came to me and she was like, she told me to tell you this. And I was like, yeah, that's not happening. That's not happening.
Dude.
No, I'm not paying you. Like, and she was like, well, she took advantage of our time and we could have had other clients. And I was like, I paid you $100 for a 30-minute appointment that I drove 2 hours to get to. Like, what are you talking about? It was so absurd. So anyways, I did not pay her, and I'm very proud of that. I'm very proud of that.
You
Good
didn't
job, Hannah.
You didn't sign a piece of paper. I mean,
Well, I immediately was worried. I'm like, is she going to come at me in some way? So I remember the last thing I did was I texted the midwife and I said, do I owe you $600 or whatever? She texted back, no, we had no contract. You do not owe me the money, but, and then went into why she thinks I should pay her. And I was just devastated for weeks. I remember thinking, how will I ever hire another midwife? Like, I just feel so brokenhearted, right? Yeah. And I remember thinking, is a midwife even going to take me if they hear about this story? What if this midwife
Right.
shares with all the midwives? If
Right.
they have like an underground pathway they talk through, like this person, this woman, she cons people. Like, I was just so stressed out about it. And when I met with the other midwife, the one I hired and was at my
Stuck
birth,
with.
I remember I told her the story, not in that much detail, but I was like, listen, she said these things and I just want to tell you, if you're going to hear it, I want you to hear from me. I don't know how you would hear it, but I just, this is what happened. And also, what's happened to me, this pregnancy, who I was cared for and why it ended, blah, blah, blah. And she was like, no, not a problem at all. Like, sounds good. And I was like, oh, wow. Like, she's just so generous to take on this potential con
I
artist.
conned the last lady. You sure about this? This first time mom, I'm just scheming.
So I interviewed her and I remember thinking, you're a lot more medical than I would have preferred. She's talking about, you've got time limits, you get this. If you have twins, we're going to do this. And if you have a breach, these are my policies. And I was like, oh, that's not what I believe. That's not what I would do. But I kept thinking, well, I know I'm not having twins and I'm probably not going to have a breech baby. Probably won't even happen. Everything else is fine. I remember thinking this and it's so foolish. I'll fight her on everything else in labor. It's no problem.
And you had a doula. You
And I had a
literally
doula.
checked all of the boxes that everyone thinks I need to gear up for this. A lot of women out there getting wrecked and I'm going to do it right the first time. And it's just good on you, man. Ah.
Yeah. And it's like so infuriating because I look back and I'm like, there were so many warning signs. You're in labor. You're not fighting anybody. It's just 9 times out of 10, you're not going to be able to do it.
Once you're at a certain point. Yeah, if you're not in a safe space and you had already been walked all over.
Mm-hmm.
you weren't going to put up a fight with a brand new midwife
Right.
and
Right.
possibly lose that one.
Right. That's playing in my
'Cause
head.
in that idea of,
And I
like,
had that
we
wall
need
up.
somebody.
Right. We need
Yeah.
to have a midwife. We can't give birth without a midwife. So yeah, we met. We had a good interview. I remember she was like bragging about this part of herself. She's like, I'm very hands off. I sit in the corner and I watch my mamas give birth, and I'm really there for emergencies. Women know how to give birth. They're in the corner. They're doing it. They don't need me. Like, she had this amazing little script. Yeah. And I was like eating it up. I'm like, yeah, that's what I want, because I know I can do this. Pumping myself up, which you should do before birth. Like, God designed you to do this. I mean, I knew those things. I'm like telling myself those things. My doula's there, and she and I believe the same things. But the thing is, I put my brand new doula, okay, in a room with a midwife who's in her 40s, who's had 5 kids. My doula had never had any kids at that time. She's not even done with school yet. Actually, her doula's schooling. And a midwife who's in there going, I've been doing this for 14, 15, whatever, how many years.
I mean, even as a labor and delivery nurse, like, the fear of losing your job, getting apprehended, the amounts of times I've had to leave a laboring mom sobbing because the OB ridiculed me. The fear of that is just, and as a labor and delivery nurse, you're not taking on your own client. As a doula, you have your own client. Yeah, that'd be terrifying.
And I remember too, closer to my birth, my doula had said to me, like, what do you want? What do you want my role to be in your birth? I had told her, I want you to watch my husband. I want you to make sure he's okay. I'm thinking I can handle the midwife. Like, if something comes up, I'll be like, stop that.
Stop that.
Get out of here. And, I was like, I'm just worried about my husband. I just want to make sure he's eating and drinking and going to the bathroom and sleeping and not sleeping.
It's like
not
a
sleeping.
Level 10 people pleaser. We got to knock that out of her. We got to knock it out of her.
Tried and guilty. So, she's like, no problem. I'll make sure he's good. And she had told me too at that point, I think I'm really starting to like the hospitality side of dueling over the advocating side. I had all these ideas and I thought I'd set everything up perfectly. Noah's watched. I'm good. I know what I'm doing. She's going to sit in the corner. She's not even going to bother me. I think I was 36 weeks. And she came over for an appointment and she did the little, I'm going to see where the baby is and pressing down.
And patience.
About this fiasco.
I'm like, oh, I don't like that. That hurts, She told me the week before, she's like, baby's head down. No doubt about it. Awesome.
Doing it right.
I'm like, wow.
35 weeks. Baby's head down.
So we get to 36 weeks and she goes, I don't know for sure. Now I'm having a hard time deciding. I don't know. And I was like, you were so sure last week. I'm feeling baby all the time. He's head down. He's kicking here. How would he not be head down? And she's like, well, I'm not sure. And I wasn't sure last week. And I was like, you were sure last week. Just to reiterate, I don't care if baby's head down, butt down, foot down, whatever. I don't care. I was only caring about it and concerned because I knew her policy on breech babies was I will not treat you and you will be an automatic C-section at the hospital.
Yeah, and that's like...
And she told me that first appointment too, and I remember thinking, so she starts saying, I think you need to go get an ultrasound because I'm not going to do your birth if the baby's head down. And I was like, well, if I don't get the C-section, you don't know if baby's head down. You said you would...
If you don't get the ultrasound.
Oh, right. You would do the birth, you said, if you weren't sure if the baby's head down or not. She's like, well, I want to know. Prior, she'd kind of given off, like, it was almost like I thought she was giving me, like, the wink, wink. If it's a surprise breach, I'll do it. So I was like, well, I'll just refuse the ultrasound when time comes if she thinks that. So that time came, and I was like...
You con artist.
Right? Sneaky. I was like... And she knew I wanted no ultrasounds. I had made that clear. I'd said I've had none. I want none. She brings up ultrasound and I'm like, no, I want no ultrasounds. And she goes, yeah, well, I've been meaning to talk to you about that anyway. Why are you so against them? And I was like, no, you agreed at my first appointment. You were fine with me saying I didn't want ultrasounds. She's like, well, you need to give me evidence. You need to back yourself up. Hannah now would be like, I don't need to back myself up squat. I said no, it's no.
Yeah.
You back yourself up. Like,
right.
And, I was just like, no, absolutely not. But I'm trying to tell her, like, it's a medical thing. It's a spiritual thing. I don't want them. And I'm stuttering. She's sitting there with articles ready to go. You're wrong. They're fine.
Right,
da, 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 da.
right.
So I remember I asked her, I said, well, I'll think about what you're recommending, but I'm incredibly uncomfortable with this situation.
And you're still, like, it's only 36 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if she's so medical.
Yeah, baby could flip
Yeah, I mean.
anytime. She said that to me, and I kept saying to her, well, what if I get the ultrasound and then baby flips the week after? And she's like,
Right.
well, and I was like, are you going to make me get an ultrasound every week? Like, I'm not understanding your math here.
Right.
It's because there's no logic. There's no logic. It's a
Yeah,
control thing.
It's just policy.
Totally.
Somebody wrote it down somewhere, and she's like, "Hey, somebody."
Yep.
I was alone during this appointment, so I talked to my husband about it, and I was like, I'm not getting an ultrasound. It's not happening. And he goes, yeah, absolutely not. There's no reason for it. I totally agree. And I told him, I was like, listen, in that appointment, she was walking all over me. Like, it didn't matter what I said, how I said it. I was super composed, put together, confident in my decision. I delivered it well. Like, there is no argument here.
And at this point, you're like, do I have to fire another midwife?
Right. And I didn't want her to be like, well, you're not taking my recommendation. You're disrespecting my experience, my education, my da 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 da. I was like, she's gonna get offended, and she's either gonna abuse me in my birth, or she's gonna fire me, and I don't have time to look for another midwife. Like,
Right.
I'm
At 36 weeks.
So finally, I called my doula because I thought, you know what we're gonna do is we're gonna have my doula and my husband there, helping me argue this, and we'll be good.
So now you're 37 weeks, right?
This was immediately after the 36-week appointment. I called my doula, talked to my husband. I said, let's meet tomorrow, because the midwife was going to come back 2 days later, check again to see positioning.
2 days later? Do they make a kickback having an ultrasound done? Exactly. I want an episode where we figure out, where we like dive into how the insurance companies are giving these home birth midwives a reason for the iron test. I mean, or any labs, you know, like sending you to get the ultrasound, all of those things. Like, do they get a kickback from the insurance companies for billing that? Like, because your insurance covered this midwife, right? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Did this midwife that you hired like send you for labs or do anything?
The first one or the second one?
The second one.
Yes.
Yeah.
My first week with her, she said, yeah, well, I like to get the labs done so we can see, make sure you got your nutrition and your this and your that. Sure, I'll go for labs. So we went, they drew some blood, did the labs. I think everything was fine, actually. She said, keep taking your iron that the first midwife told you to take, which now I would do. Second, maybe I wouldn't do that again.
No.
But anyway.
We've learned about iron assimilation since then.
Right. And then I remember she convinced me to do the GBS. Is it the GBS?
Yeah.
And I said to her, I don't want to do that. I'm not going to do that. And she was like, well, you have to, or I can't be your midwife. And I was like, what? And
I'm going to swab your butthole and you're going to like it.
You're going to love it. So she's like, oh, I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, so I feel like I've already given in to her already. I'm like, come on, stop. Like,
yeah, they have rules that if you're not charted with this, and this, then insurance will not cover them.
Yeah. So I did go get that done.
Wait, you had to go somewhere else to get that done?
Go to IRMC.
What? Who swabbed your butthole? You did it yourself. They just handed you the thing?
No, not the GBS. Okay, I knew I was talking about the wrong thing.
Okay.
It was not that. I was like, what joke are you making about butt swabbing? Okay, I'm all caught up. I'm caught up. I know what's going on here. I actually got the gestational diabetes test, the drink.
Oh.
Glucose test.
That's more infuriating than GBS.
So late in your pregnancy, why?
She intentionally waited till I was like,
You would have already had this done with the first midwife.
By that point.
Yes, it's a 20-week thing. She got a kickback for that.
Then she told me, she goes, don't worry, you can take your own drink so you don't have to take their toxic gross drink. And I was like, oh, perfect.
Thanks.
So she sent me the link to this drink. I'd buy it.
The fresh test.
Yes. $14. I'm like, perfect, affordable.
You could have just done
She tells
pancakes.
me it's clean. Well, I bought it, and IRMC, I called ahead, and they were like, the heck? You can't bring your own drink, you psycho. And I was like, what? They were like, no. So then the midwife was like, well, just give them to me, and I'll give them to other patients. I guess you can't use them. I didn't know that, whatever. So I'm like,
You
So-
better pay me for it.
$14, put it on the itemized receipt.
And of course I come back and everything's fine. What the heck was this?
that made
You
me
knew I didn't
throw up
want these
so
things. Like
hard.
I said, I don't want these things. She said, no problem. And then we get further in care and things kept changing. So we get to the ultrasound. So I meet with my doula and my husband. And actually, the doula's husband came to the meeting as well. He was more like, yeah, don't accept the ultrasound. That's crap. Then even my husband and the doula were, I was like, yeah, you and me, Caden. He's like, don't do it. Anyway, we make this plan that we're going to meet with the doula, the midwife together, and we're going to tell her, like, no, and they're going to hold my back up and, be my little army. So we go to the appointment, and exactly what I was afraid of happened. She steamrolled my doula, my husband. By the end of the appointment, I was staring at them like this. Like, no,
Help me.
and they're going, well, Hannah, she makes some good points. Maybe we should. I mean, she's going, if you have a breech baby, you're going to die. Noah hears that. He's like, what? Like, Haddon's like over there, like, getting belittled medically by the midwife because she's like, be a smart doula. You need to tell your client the healthy thing to do. Like, she's kind of. And so I was like watching them fold.
There goes my birth team.
Oh no.
I feel so supported.
Like,
no.
I'm trying to doula them to doula me. But she was looking over at Haddon and Noah like, it's your job to convince her. So get to work, basically. Which also happened multiple times during my labor to get me to do things she wanted me to do. So she leaves. My doula stayed. Noah obviously stayed. We're talking about it. They're like, I think maybe you should. Just the things she said. I remember it got to the point where I said to them, I'm going to get it done and you're all going to feel stupid. Because first of all, he's head down. I can feel him. I know he is. So we go get the ultrasound. I text her. I'm like, I'll get the ultrasound, but I'm doing it so begrudgingly. No one knows we're in the car on the way there. I'm like, you guys are going to feel so stupid. You're going to feel so embarrassed. You're going to feel so dumb. Which honestly, I'm the one that feels dumb because I told you this madness. So we get to the IRMC hellhole and we go in and I remember I'm sitting there in the ultrasound waiting room and there's like a man across the room and I'm like, oh, he must be here waiting for his wife. No, he was there to get his own ultrasound or something. I was like, oh my gosh. I remember the ultrasound tech saying to me, she goes, I'm confused. Do you have a midwife? And she couldn't tell where the baby was positioned. Don't they do that hand thing?
Palpations.
Yes. And I was like, yeah, she did. She said she couldn't tell. And she looked at me like, I don't think you should be with this midwife. And I was like,
oh my gosh.
the ultrasound tech at IRMC is telling me that. She goes, yeah, your baby's head down. And he's real stuck in there. Like, he's real low.
I can't even see his head from here.
She's like, you're probably going to give birth, like, pretty soon. She would do your birth at 37 weeks, which is good because that's when he came. And we left that appointment. I text the midwife. I'm like, he was head down. I could feel her
Angst.
Yeah. Oh, crap. This girl's going to think I'm an idiot. So she texts back, oh my gosh, I'm so relieved. Thank you for trusting my background and my education and my everything I was afraid that was built on was confirmed by that text. If I'd said no, you were going to be offended. She's like, I'm sorry that you had to do this thing that you didn't want to do, but thank you for trusting me and means a lot to me. And I was just like, I feel like crap. Like I gave into something I didn't want and you made me compromise something I wanted and pressured me. And ultimately, again, I just want to say this. It is obviously my fault, my responsibility. I could have said no. If she had quit, whatever would have happened, God would have taken care of me. It's ultimately my responsibility. I could have said no and held my grounds. But there is something to say for being pressured to do things after you said no. I said no.
Yeah.
I've said no. We've had multiple appointments. I've said no. I hired you on the premise of you saying you were fine with me declining these things.
Right.
And it was making me extra nervous about the cervical checks. If she bent on this, she's going to pressure me to do other things. And I don't want cervical checks. And
You thought that?
Yep. Specifically with the cervical checks, I remember getting very anxious and I actually brought it up to her because I said, I need to hear you say it again. I need to hear you say I'm not getting any cervical checks. You're not going to pressure me to do cervical checks. And she was like, oh, I hardly ever perform them. Like, that's not even a hard thing for me to say yes to. Like, and I wouldn't need to do one unless there was an emergency. Again, in my head, I was thinking, okay, well, there's not going to be an emergency. I'm a healthy girl. What would happen that would be an emergency? What I should have been thinking was, and should have asked her is, okay, what qualifies an emergency? Because I don't want cervical checks. And why would a cervical check help in an emergency? But again, it was one of those things I brushed off because I can't birth without a midwife. I don't want to offend this midwife. I don't want her to fire me. I don't want her to think badly of me. I don't want her to treat me some bad way during the labor because she's annoyed at me. That was what was running in my mind. I felt locked all over. I felt my confidence had shifted. But I was like just focused on making the best of it at that point. Like it wasn't even in my mind that I could fire her or change directions here. I remember she kept telling me the whole pregnancy, you're going to be like 42 weeks or something. Like first time moms don't go early. And I was like, why do you keep saying that? Like who cares? Like she just kept making these rules almost
The
for my
dating
body.
is like not accurate anyway. Like our dating system was made by a man that really didn't know what was going on.
Yeah. But I remember it annoyed me. And I did go into labor at 37 weeks. Called her. She came. She's like, wow, you're in labor? The way you're sounding. I remember this irked me so bad as soon as she said it. The way you sound, your contractions are really big and you're far along and this baby's going to come out within the next few hours. And I was like, oh my gosh, really?
The God complex on women.
Yeah. The things she spoke over me before the birth, during the birth.
Yeah.
Insane. Either discouraging or gave me false hope that later led to discouragement. It was like, and you shouldn't even be thinking about those things. Like, oh, is the baby going to come fast? So she got there. She's like, oh, this baby's going to be out of here in 2 seconds. It's like 3 a.m. I'm like, wow, okay. Baby by morning. Nice. My doula showed up and the midwife went downstairs. I was in the tub, relaxing and thinking I'm having my pain management. I'm getting in the mood. I'm doing all the water birth things. My doula shows up and we're talking. I got out of the tub. I'm sitting on the toilet and I'm just talking with her. I'm having a blast. Like I'm going through contractions, but I'm like happy and just like talking. And I was with my friend because at that point we'd become very close, good friends. She'd been with me since I found out I was pregnant, basically. So, I mean, we were just chatting and it was the best time. And it was probably about 2 hours we were up there just chatting. And I remember the midwife came up and she said, hearing you chat, I know your labor slowed down quite a bit. I'm actually going to leave and go to church because you're slowing down. And I remember how that hit me. Like the way I took it made me feel like a failure.
Right. Absolutely.
Your body has slowed down. I don't know what's wrong with it, why it's doing that. You were going to have this baby so fast, but now you're not.
Yeah.
And
right.
I was also, it made me feel, it set like a precedent for the rest of my birth that, oh, I have to sound like I'm in labor for you to believe me. And I have to sound right, perform, absolutely. Put on a show here so that you'll just stay. Because I was afraid she wouldn't be there for the birth. I was like, are you going to leave me? Like, I had tied my emotional support to her at that point.
Yeah.
At least some of it. Enough that I was afraid of her leaving. Which is why later, I think, too, when things started going bad and I was being literally abused, I didn't tell her to get the F out of my house. Like, I should have been like, get out of my house. I had tied some emotional security to her. And I don't think I was even capable of turning that around mid-labor. As soon as she left, I felt panic. I felt fear. I was like, why did she leave? Can she just come back? Like, and I remember my doula said, oh, if the midwife's leaving, she felt like, oh, should I go too? Following her lead, thinking that's what she should do. So she asked me, she's like, could I go to church? Like, should I go to church? And I remember looking at her like, I felt guilt, like telling her no, because the midwife had gone to church and is with her family and relaxing and getting a break from me, even though I'm a paying client, which I will say I was not paying my doula to be there. Because she was still in school, she was doing it for free. But I remember feeling guilty, like if I say no to her, but I said yes. And so she left. And then like probably 20 minutes after she left, I was like, I told Noah, I'm like, get the doula back here. Get the midwife back here. No, don't leave me here. We get them back and labor's going on. I remember I kept them bossed around. Like try here, go here, go here, get in this position, get on the bed, get out of the tub, get in the shower, get out, do this, do that.
Oh my gosh.
And I remember at one point I said, Noah and my doula came in and they were like, hey, we think you should get out of the shower, go into the bedroom and take a nap. And I was like, I'm not tired. I don't want to. I don't feel like doing that. And I was having the intense contractions. Like, I can't sleep through these. And so I was like, what? Stop telling me to take a nap. I don't want to lay down. Nothing, like none of the positions to sleep are comfortable that they were telling me to get into. And I was like happy in the shower. I was happy. I remember I was listening to my music. I'm like vibing. I was just happy there and comfortable there. And they were like, well, we really think that. And I was like, did the midwife send you in here to tell me that? And they go, and they looked at each other like, oh, we've been caught. Like, we're going to give away the midwife's cover. And so then the midwife like slinks into the shower and she's like, did you guys convince her? Like, is she, I'm like, what? So I'm like, I say to the midwife, I'm like, why didn't you just come talk to me yourself? And do you think I should get out and why? Like, do you think it's going to help in some way? Like, tell me why. Honestly, like I was willing to listen to her. I was like, why are you trying to manipulate me? Like, just talk to me and tell
It's emotional manipulation. Having to go through birth while also dealing with somebody who is emotionally manipulating you. It's horrible.
I remember multiple times, things are speeding up. Oh, things are slowing down again.
And that's going to slow labor down. I mean,
1,000%. And you know what's so funny is I remember saying this to my husband afterwards. I was like, why did no one else notice that it was like every time the midwife left and came back, my labor had sped up. But then as she stayed in the room because it had sped up, oh, we're going to have the baby. Oh, it's slowing down all of a sudden. Leaves again for 2 hours. Labor picks up again.
That's spiritual, dude.
Remember back when we talk about the cervical checks prior to birth, she's like, only in emergencies do I even do those. Well, apparently I had an emergency like 3-4 hours into birth. So I got pressured into the first cervical check. I remember she said, well, I'll only do one. It will just be one. We won't do any more. And I was like, if you do this one, you're not going to ask me again. You know, trying to make you happy. Like, let's just do it. Lay down, and it was the worst pain of my entire life, ever in my whole life. It has left me with the most scars throughout my entire body. Like, I feel it everywhere, down to my toes to my head.
Because your fascia is your tongue to your toes. It immediately tightened your fascia.
I'm 13 months postpartum. I think I was probably 8 or 9 months till I felt any degree of relief from that lingering, like, it was like I could still feel her doing it. And my husband could not touch me. It could be as innocent as him coming up and wanting a hug. And I was like, you have to ask permission. You cannot just come up to me and grab me. And thank God, like I had a husband who was very understanding and accepting of what I was telling him, but I feel violated even still. It's like you're not being sexually abused, but it has that exact same effect.
Your body doesn't know the difference.
Right.
Your body does not know the difference.
It's just unwanted.
Normal people that have never done a cervical check on a person, like I have done thousands. No, all right, maybe not thousands. I didn't count how many cervixes I've had to reach, but I can't reach. Like
Little fingers.
More than half the time.
Wow.
I could not reach. As vulgar and horribly pornographic obstetric it is awful. And you got women scrunching up the bed. It's not quick. You are digging in there, searching around, trying your hardest to get a number for some reason, like to measure something up in there. It is hard to do. And having it done to you is horrific.
I always think about when I remember the cervical checks is like, it's not just your birth, it's your baby's birth. All of those things are invasive to your baby's experience too. So the women that are like, oh, well, I just wanted to know, or I just wanted to this, you're not just taking into consideration yourself, but also how is this going to affect my baby?
Absolutely.
How is this going to affect my birth? I'm not saying that your birth needs to be fast, and I'm not saying your birth can't go up and down. That's perfectly normal. What's not normal is interventions stalling your birth.
Yeah.
You're
Right.
stalling your baby. Your baby was in a flow, a rhythm,
Yeah.
coming down. And oh, wait, mom's clenching and freaking out. And I can feel her fear. Her
Yeah.
heartbeat's raising. She's scared. I'm supposed to be being born right now. My
Yeah.
mother is terrified.
Yeah.
I cried. I cried before she came near me. I cried for the second, the third, the fourth. Like, I was crying and begging her, like, I don't want this. And she was like, it's okay.
So she had
And
promised she wasn't going to do them.
Yep.
And you just said second,
Yep.
third, fourth.
And she told my husband to go upstairs and go to bed. And I remember he looked at me like, am I supposed to be doing that? And she was like, go upstairs. You need to get rest. Tossing him around, telling him, you need to be ready for her later. Go get rest. You've been up since 2 a.m. with her. Go to bed. And he went upstairs. He told me. I went upstairs and I sat there like, I'm not supposed to be up here. Why am I up here? She was just bossing the heck out of everybody. And I just
In your
remember
own
being
home.
like,
Oh, it
wow.
makes me so mad.
I remember her being here after the birth and saying to me, you know, your birth was really traumatic and I could totally see you never wanting to give birth in this house again. To
Now we have to
myself,
sell the house?
I was not traumatized by my home. And my home is not tainted because
What a
of my
jerk.
birth. It's tainted because of you. The way she viewed it was not how I viewed it. I actually think she's fully aware. I think she's fully aware that she screwed up, talking to me harshly, rushing me after I gave birth. Come on, hurry up. Put your leg, come on. Like
Oh,
talking to me like that.
dude.
I will never forget it. Ever. So I think at this point I hit 30 hours of labor. I'm in the shower and she convinces me to get out of the shower by manipulating. I get out of the shower, go to the bed, and she's clearly getting frustrated, clearly getting tired. Her birth assistant, who was a stranger to me, showed up at that point. And I remember thinking, why are you here? If you weren't here from the beginning, why are you here? Like, now you're just a stranger when I'm phased in labor. Like, she shows up and she's just watching me from the doorway. And I'm butt naked, of course, you know. I'm just like, well, okay. Hi, you know.
Nice to meet you.
At this point, I've hit transition, is my guesstimate. The cervical checks really shattered my mental strength and endurance that I had spent my entire pregnancy building up. This is the one thing that I'm like, give myself props for, kind of looking back, because I have a lot of like, oh, Hannah, you shouldn't have done that. Oh, you're stupid. But now I look back at this part and I'm like, she screwed you where you had built up something good. I knew I wanted to be relying on the Lord during my birth. I had studied and tried to find books and videos that talked about physiological birth, what your baby's doing. Contractions aren't pain. They're doing something. It's not just this random hard feeling you're feeling. It's doing something.
Mhm.
Lean into it. Relax into it. And the cervical checks made that impossible. It threw me out of every rhythm, everything I had told myself that I ruined it. Just ruined it. And when we got to 30-ish hours of labor, I remember her saying to me, you're not handling this well. And I actually think you should maybe transfer to the hospital and get an epidural. I remember being like, I'm going to die here, or I'm going to go to the hospital to poison my kid and end up with a C-section anyway, just to get out of this
Jeez.
situation. When the midwife turned around to discuss how they would take me to the hospital with this birth assistant that had just showed up, Noah came to my side and whispered in my ear, if you want to go to the hospital, I'll help you get there. But I think you can do it. I think you can stay here and give birth to our baby without the epidural and in our home. And I think you're really going to regret if you don't. You're going to kick yourself afterwards. And that was what, like, the Lord used to, like, reignite that, like, right, I'm in labor. I'm giving birth. Something's happening and
Yeah.
I need to get my butt in, you know, right in gear and focus on what's going on here. And because I completely dissociated and zoned out at that point, and I felt like I was experiencing people doing things to me at that
She
point.
called that birth assistant just to transfer you.
Yeah. I mean, we'd been there for like 30 hours. Why are you showing
Yeah,
up
she
now?
literally was like, all right.
Get
let's
over here.
I can't. Let's get this girl out of here.
You know, I think too, like with Noah and my doula trying to resist stuff she wanted them to do, I feel like, get over here, help me to get this girl to do what I want. And you could tell from the birth assistant's behavior and what she said while I was even in labor. I remember thinking this, you idolized this midwife. Like, she was like honored to be in the room with this midwife. remember when they got me back in the tub to push.
Because you had told her no to the epidural, like
Yes,
officially.
yes. So I said, no, I can do it. And she was like, okay. Which is funny because later after the birth, she's like, I knew you could do it. And I didn't want you to go. I thought you could stay here and do it. That's why I didn't recommend it. And I was like, you absolutely recommended it. That's what? Everything after the birth was so gaslighting. And so anyways, we're in right after I say no to the epidural, she hits me with Benadryl again. And I actually forgot that. She'd been bringing that up since 9 a.m. that morning. I went into labor at 3 a.m. 9 a.m. She's like, you need to rest. You need to sleep. And I remember saying to her, I don't want to sleep. And if I can sleep, I'll sleep. If I can't, I'm not going to sleep. I want to follow the rhythm of the labor. Yes. It was absurd. I was like, do you have a family event you're supposed to be at or something? Like, why are you so determined for me to sleep? She brought up the Benadryl over and over, and I kept saying no. And she was like, it doesn't go to the baby. And it's fine. It just lets you sleep. It's totally harmless. And I was like, stop. And she's like, okay, well, I'll try again later. And I'm like, no.
Don't try again later.
No. And she had, my doula and my husband. She's like, try to get her to take the epidural. She needs, or not the epidural, the Benadryl.
Same.
She needs to rest. Honestly, to me, it was the same. I was like, no, I'm not shooting myself up full of crap. She was so determined for me to sleep. And she goes, let me give you the Benadryl. It works like an epidural. It will take the pain away and you'll be able to get some rest before you push. Again, my husband and my doula knew nothing about Benadryl. I really didn't either, but I knew enough to say no. But because I was in transition and I was like weak, not sober-minded, I was considering an epidural at that point, which I would never sober-minded. It's one of the reasons I gave birth at home, so I wouldn't be tempted by crap. She said, I'm going to give you the Benadryl. And I said, yeah, give me the Benadryl. Takes out this shot, giant, thick, long thing, sticks it in my thigh. I was sore for like 4 days after.
It was IM Benadryl?
It wasn't a pill?
No, it was a shot in the leg. She said it gets to you faster. I get shot full of this stuff. And I remember it was the worst thing ever. I went from being completely exhausted to can't even explain how exhausted I was. Like, I remember thinking, like, I'm gonna drown. Like, I can't even hold myself up in this birth tub. Like, I'm gonna drown.
Wait, you were in the birth tub?
Yes.
After you had received Benadryl?
Immediately after the Benadryl, they walk me to my tub full of water. They're like, all right, get in. And we're gonna push. I said to her, I was like, wait, we came in here to push? I'm not ready to push. I don't feel anything. And she goes, well, that's okay. That's how you get the baby down. And I was like,
how you get the baby down.
I'm baffled that they gave you like a sedative and then put you in the tub.
Right?
Like, how irresponsible.
And it was maybe like 2 months, 3 months after the birth. She apologized, I use that word loosely, for giving it to me at that time. She said, I shouldn't have given it to you that late in labor and right before you pushed. But you also should have taken it earlier when I told you to.
It's not gonna work.
And then she laughed and she was like, I think you can even agree with that now. And I was like, no.
Rude.
And I can't believe it. I thought midwives were just giving pregnant moms or laboring moms like a pill, like a Benadryl that you get over the counter, not like shooting up something into their thigh. That makes it so much worse. It literally makes me want to cry. It makes me so angry.
You think you're doing things right.
Not even just withholding consent, informed consent. She was full-blown lying. It doesn't go to the baby. It doesn't. It's totally fine. It's totally
literally
healthy.
In the FDA label, right there. Indications. Don't for nursing mothers is contraindicated in nursing mothers. Any antihistamine therapy. Again, it doesn't take a rocket scientist or anybody with credentials. And then here we are getting flagged for reading the FDA insert.
So yeah, I'm in the tub, I'm pushing, and I kept saying to her, I'm not ready, I don't feel anything. And she goes, honey, the only way through this is to push. And I'm asking for help. I remember I kept saying, somebody help me, because no one was talking to me, but people were talking. And I remember my midwife telling stories and kept asking what time it was. And it was like pretty much on the dot every hour. She'd be like, what time is it? Oh, it's 9 o'clock. What time is it now? Oh, it's 10 p.m. What time is it now? Oh, it's 11 p.m. And I was like, oh
Get a
my
watch.
God, stop asking the time. And I remember thinking everyone's getting frustrated with me because it's been hours and hours and hours, and I can't control it.
Right.
Yeah, she's telling stories to this stranger in the doorway and my doula and my husband
During your pushing stage?
during my pushing stage. So every other word's like, okay, push, hold your breath, do this, do that. The way she was telling me to push was like, I had to push like you're pooping, which you're not supposed to push when you poop.
No.
Just saying.
Right?
I pushed for 7 hours.
That is insane. That's insane.
Like on Benadryl.
That's insane.
Like,
that's crazy.
it was horrible. It was absolutely horrible.
Sadly, first time moms think that's normal.
Yeah.
I pushed for 4 hours, but like that's insane, dude.
Well, and the thing was, she told me afterwards, I remember her pumping me up, like, you pushed for 7 hours, that's crazy, that's so crazy. Months later, I remember she goes, and how long were you pushing? I was telling someone about your birth the other day, and I was like, 7 hours. And she goes, honey, no, it wasn't 7 hours. I wouldn't have let you push for 7 hours. I was like, no, you demanded I pushed for 7 hours, actually.
Dude, that is insane. Straight to jail.
Straight to jail. Straight to jail.
Right. I mean,
Right to
my
jail.
pelvic
Right away.
floor is still
I bet.
I was only able to sit down pain free. I think I was maybe 11 months postpartum. And that's on a cushion. Like this.
I'm sorry about
This
chair.
is insane that I'm sitting on. No, I don't. It doesn't hurt now, though.
Okay.
But like, I couldn't even sit on like a cushion chair pain free till like 11 months. And then it was almost like as soon as I hit like 11 months, I was like making like leaps in bounds in healing. At least pain-wise. I also had an episiotomy, which I've only recently started to look into, like, episiotomies. Are they good? They bad? Are they good sometimes? Bad sometimes? What is the deal with them, right? Spoiler alert, they're bad. But, yeah, I had a 4th degree tear. I had the episiotomy, 7 hours of pushing. Benadryl.
But that's what caused the 4th degree tear, right? Was the
100%.
episiotomy.
Absolutely.
And if you don't want to tear, don't push before you're ready.
Yeah.
Boom. You're
Don't
welcome.
let anybody near
And
you
I was
with
like-
a scalpel.
Don't let anybody near you with a scalpel. Amen. This is one of those things that I'm like, I should have known about these things when I was a kid. Like, we don't pass down birth to our daughters like we used to.
No, we do not. Now we do. The vagina is going to heal faster than any skin. Like that mucosal membrane.
It's mucosal membrane. That's why.
It's not.
It's like your mouth.
Yeah,
it's
like-
different in
But
the
I
way that it
didn't know that.
heals.
Mhm.
I didn't even know that.
In fact, stitch make it harder
Yeah.
Harder to heal.
to heal
Yeah.
and more likely to tear again because it's an unnatural healing. So you were in the tub for 7 hours.
Yeah.
Didn't the water get cold?
Yeah. Didn't the water get cold?
Oh, it was freezing and it wasn't high enough. And I remember I kept saying that.
This woman.
I was wet all over, but it wasn't high enough. Like, I was so cold.
this straight to jail.
Right to jail.
Even worse.
Dang it. I kept saying
There
it.
is no jail worthy.
Dude, the water is cold. Your butt's not in it. That is so dangerous.
And she kept looking over at me like I knew she was hearing me. Like, I kept saying stuff. And then she'd be like, so anyways, guys, so then I da. And she's telling
Dude.
birth stories, how she lied to moms and told them they were further along than they were to get them to keep pushing. This, that. I'm like sitting there. She's telling me to push. My knees, my wrists, like right here,
Dude.
bruised. I couldn't push down on soap for probably 2 weeks.
I
was
couldn't
like,
push down on soap. She couldn't pump soap.
couldn't pump my own soap.
She couldn't sit. This
Couldn't
is
sit.
ridiculous.
Couldn't sit. Couldn't be touched. Couldn't be looked at.
Now this is a home birth hired midwife. So
Oh.
your hands and knees
Yep.
in a regular bathtub.
Yep,
A
ceramic,
ceramic
enamel, cast
regular
iron, whatever.
bathtub.
Yep.
Not a pool. Not
Nope.
like an inflatable birth pool with a nice seat.
No, but I remember I kept saying I'm hurting, my wrists are hurting, my knees are hurting, and they went and got me a towel that they laid down flat, so that provided 0.
Towel cushion.
And later I was like, was that to catch, like, is that for easy cleanup? Like, I wondered if that wasn't even for me. And I remember feeling so ignored and lonely and being like, why is no one paying attention to things I'm saying? I'm saying this is low. I'm saying I'm cold. And everyone was outside the room, like in the doorway. She's in the room next to me by the tub, almost guarding it. Like, no one's to come in here, not allowing people in. I remember towards like when he was coming out, she let my husband in. And I think the doula came in and was taking pictures at the end too. And the picture of Noah being there, I remember I told him, I was like, you weren't there. And he was like, yeah, I was there. Like, you can see it. I was there. I was like, I literally was like, is this Photoshop? Like, you are not in the room with me, which could have been the Benadryl, but I was like, no one was talking to me. I couldn't hear your voice. I didn't hear anyone's voice except the midwife telling these stories, chit-chatting casually, as if I'm not sitting there going through this insane thing.
It's almost spiritual
Horrible.
too.
It is. It's so spiritual. Like she had a hold. Yeah, like I don't know, some type of
Witchcraft?
yeah, it's sorcery. It's way deeper than just like, oh, a licensed midwife bullied me.
This is much deeper than that. The manipulation, if we look, at scripture, it's witchcraft.
Yeah, and the repetitiveness of it, and it's ritualistic. It's something deep within her, within all of them that they don't even understand that has a hold on their practice. Because we were talking about like earlier how maybe when they say they burned midwives at the stake, were they practicing witchcraft? Were they taking babies back in the day when
Never thought
midwifery
that.
got a bad rap? And then all of a sudden the system's like, we're the midwives now. And it's
Right.
still,
Not good.
yeah.
Right. Wow. And
If we think about like scripture too, you had the Hebrew midwives and then you have the Egyptian midwives, and they were commanded to kill every male born child. And then the Hebrew midwives were like, these women labor too fast, we can't do it. But there were still women who were killing babies. I've thought about how people that were targeted were also midwives. They were known as like the herbalists, the healers. Well, sometimes those things can also be witchcraft.
Yeah.
Not always,
Right.
but sometimes.
Yeah, and it's like those demonic forces that lived then, they didn't leave the earth. They're using other people. But I'm the dangerous one.
I'm the dangerous one. Right. Yeah, Beth, you're terrifying. So while he's coming out, like as his head's coming out, I remember she said to me, she keeps telling me to push. And the entire time I was pushing, every single push. There was not one time that I pushed consciously that was not like the hardest thing I've ever done. She gets to a point where she's like, okay, the head's coming out. Oh my God, something's wrong. Like everyone starts freaking out. The birth assistant's freaking out. There's all this chatter. She said, you're about to like rip in half if I don't do something. And I think meaning like you're going to tear from butthole to front. She goes, Hannah, I need your permission to perform an episiotomy. I knew it meant cutting. Didn't know anything about episiotomies aside from that. I never researched them. The way she worded it was like, if you don't give me permission now, like there's no time. I'm like, I just want this baby out. I had that mindset going through my head. So I go, do what you got to do. Snip me up real good, And she did. She told me later, and this part of the birth, not filmed. I've never seen the video. It's been lost.
There's a video that has been lost.
I've actually...
Her birth footage is gone.
Yeah. There's
Who recorded it?
I don't want to say. It wasn't me, though. It's sketchy. I have maybe 5 or 6 photos of the birth, but the video is gone. And the person who took the video when they left the birth ran into my mother-in-law who's coming in, and she was like traumatized. I was told she was almost in tears, and she asked my mother-in-law, it was like, she was like, it was so bad. Do you want to see the video? My understanding of what happened is so unclear, and what people said about it was unclear. Something happened that everyone's a little bit like, wait, was that right? I don't know what it is. And I remember my doula brought it up a few times after the birth, like, something happened. She did something. It wasn't right. And I don't know what it is. I don't know if it had to do with the episiotomy. I know she said that she watched the midwife check me. I don't know what that means. She didn't do a cervical check. But she said she checked you and then looked at the birth assistant and went, and then turned and said, Hannah, I need your permission to check you. Checked me again and then said, you've like torn 3rd, 4th degree. We need to go to the hospital.
This is after he's out.
This is after he's out. So I don't like the whole, as soon as the episiotomy was brought up to I'm in the bed, baby's been born, I'm back in bed. I don't know what happened or when it happened, but something's been communicated to me happened that shouldn't have happened, and I don't know what it is, and I don't have the birth video.
I don't know.
That's why the birth video was lost.
Yeah.
It's so that you would not be able to sue the midwife because she probably did do something wrong.
She got a hold of her and scared the out of her.
Just like she has done with everybody else.
Threatened her life, probably. Threatened her reputation. And yeah, and now Miss Midwife wants to be friends with you. Because if you would have seen that, you wouldn't be hanging out with her, and now she is making sure her T's are crossed and her I's are dotted.
This is the other weird thing is, so I reached out to this person again actually recently, and I was like, listen, could you double check? I know you said it was lost. Can you double, triple check? I'm sure you looked so hard before you told me it was lost. Can you look again? Because when I first asked her, like maybe a month after the birth, and she was like, yeah, I need to send that to you. And then she told me it was lost. At that point, I was still so traumatized. I didn't even know if I wanted to see it.
I
So-
understand that. I'll watch it.
By this time, like this is like maybe 2 months ago, I'm like, not only do I think I can handle it, I need
You need
to
the
see
closure.
it. I need to know. I need to see what happened. She reached out and her response, it was a voice memo, not a text. I wish it was a text, but she never sends text. She always does voice memos. But she sent back like well, I lost it. And then she rambled for a little bit. And then she goes, but I deleted it. And then rambled for a little bit. And then goes, well, I threw away the memory card it was on. So even if I wanted to go look, I couldn't. And I was just listening to this voice memo like, you sound scared and you don't have your story straight. And I want to know why. So yeah, I have no idea what happened. And I am never going to know. But something bad, something I'd probably be ticked off
I'm trying to
about.
think, like,
Something inappropriate, something probably soon, I would think.
the
Huh.
video was of emergence in the tub.
Yes.
Not
And it filmed the episiotomy, I believe, as well. I'm not 100% sure because I never saw it, but that was my understanding, is that it filmed as soon as I was in the tub pushing. Like, it should be a long video.
I should
Meh.
hope that she just told you she lost it and it's like in a drawer somewhere labeled. But
Yeah.
like if she really threw that away,
Uh,
like that's your property. And if it's in the garbage,
Right, it was so upsetting too because when she first told me she lost it, I'm like, so my naked body giving birth
Yes!
out wherever?
right?
It's like, what do you mean you lost it?
Wow.
So
So
that's the birth video should be on.
you're out of the tub, baby is out, you had a 4th-degree tear. They say you need transferred to the hospital because she can't stitch up a 4th degree.
Yes. So immediately at that point, my husband left the room because they were telling him, go call your mom, get her here. Everyone's kind of leaving the room, and it's just me, the midwife, and the birth assistant, who's a stranger to me. And they start talking. I mean, it's a small bedroom. They're sitting with me. I'm holding my baby. Haven't even nursed him yet. I've been in the bed maybe like 5 minutes. They start discussing who's gonna take her to the hospital, who's gonna drive her. The doula left the room because she went to call the hospital and give them a heads up we're coming. And they were very particular with her about like what to say. Don't say the midwives are gonna bring her. Don't say, because we haven't decided how we're gonna word it and whatever. And I was listening to this like, it was like there was a conversation going on about me deciding things I should be deciding, but no one's even looking at me. And everyone's leaving, making phone calls, doing all these things. And the birth assistant goes, we need you, midwife, in this town. You know, you're so important and women are so blessed to have you. We can't have your reputation scarred and tainted because of this birth. After the episiotomy, he came shooting out and then got his shoulder stuck. They were like, you need to stand up and get out of the tub. From my memory, they yanked him out. That's how I remember it. And when I asked the doula and my husband, like, what happened? Did they pull him out? They were like, I don't know. I don't remember. Everything was so fast, done without permission. It was just so confusing. And I asked, did they pull my placenta out? Because I have no memory of my placenta coming out. Like, I remember it being out and being in a bowl, but I don't remember it coming.
How it got there.
Yeah, I have no memory of it. And I also remember her coming up. Noah had come back in to the room and was standing by me. Baby's on my chest. I'm holding him. Cord's not been cut. And I remember her coming up to us and going, all right, time to cut the cord, handing scissors to Noah, and it happening fast. Like, I was like, I don't remember if the cord was white. I don't remember how long I'd been sitting. I remember being like, wait, I didn't. And then it was cut and I couldn't do anything. My midwife at some point sat on my bed. She sat down like this. Like, she sat down. Hannah, I'm not going to lie to you. I've never seen anything like that. I've never had a birth go that bad like that. I've never had a birth go this way. I'm very frustrated. She's like opening her heart up to me. A normal, healthy person, not me clearly, would have been like, are you insane? Get off my bed. Stop venting to me. I'm not your therapist. I just gave birth. I'm bleeding out. What are you doing? Venting to me about how my births affected her.
Oh my
and how
gosh.
it's gone bad. She's ashamed and embarrassed and upset and annoyed. She finishes her spiel on my bed, and I remember I said something like to comfort her, like, it's okay. And,
Oh my gosh.
I think I even said, I'm not mad at you. Like, I remember feeling like I need to reassure her.
Oh my gosh.
Ew.
Ew.
And then the birth assistant comes in. There's a conversation about who's going to take her. How are we going to word it? And I remember the birth assistant going, well, she doesn't need to give our names, or like we could just show up with her and drop her off, or we could show up and just be like, hey, we're her friends. We were at her home birth.
She's a licensed midwife. This shouldn't be a freaking problem.
What was I going to say? Yeah, I gave myself an episiotomy. There were no midwives.
Yeah.
Their idea was like to say there were no midwives. We're just her friends.
But she is a certified midwife. There is a
Right.
you're licensed. You better.
She did something. She did something.
Yeah, there's some, I don't know. All I can think is, was there a cord prolapse? If she does the episiotomy, then there's a shoulder dystocia. Did he have any marks on him?
No cuts, no bruises. I remember like inspecting him, being like, what could my doula be thinking? Like, what would it be? My midwife called my doula and had her over 2 days in a row after the birth.
Ooh, I didn't know that. That is conflict of interest.
They called it, what did they call it?
Debrief.
Debrief the birth. Yeah, debrief the birth. And she was there for like 4 hours the first
You're kidding
night,
me.
6 hours the next night.
They debriefed with the doula without you.
Birth assistant was there as well and
Oh,
invited to that. And I found out about it
without
from
the
the doula.
client.
Yeah.
That's a conflict of interest. Ah.
And my midwife, when I asked her about it, I'm like, oh, the doula told me she was over at your house. She's like, oh, yeah, I just wanted to make sure she was okay. It was a really traumatic birth. And, she's a new doula. I just wanted to make sure she was okay. Even the birth assistant, she's like, I wanted to make sure she was okay.
What about the patient?
I got debriefed after them. Then the midwife,
They got their story straight. And then,
yeah.
Noah, I'm pissed. I'm calling the police.
There should be a midwifery police.
I'm calling
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
I'm the midwifery police.
It's the midwifery board. Start reporting your midwives.
We are.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah, we are.
She's got a link for it. Oh my gosh. And it's the certified ones you gotta look out for.
Yeah.
They debriefed. I did not know they had a debriefing.
Yep.
Without you.
Yep. Two.
Dude,
Debrief.
they literally got their story straight and burned the evidence.
There were snacks.
There were snacks.
They needed to keep up their energy to debrief.
You were the one that got literally your butthole ripped apart. And they needed to debrief with snacks? Are you kidding?
So finally they decide,
Like,
the midwife's like, this is an exact quote. She goes, well, I don't want my clients to think I've abandoned them, so I guess I better take her. I remember feeling like I was an annoyance. I was a burden. I was taking up space in the world that wasn't mine. Like, I just felt so,
in your own house?
horrible.
How
Horrible.
rude.
And so they've decided this. I knew that my mother-in-law was coming, and I was happy about that. I'm very close with her. I was happy she was coming. And then it starts to become evident to me they're making this plan with the idea that my husband and my baby will not be going with me to the hospital. And I'm figuring that out as they're walking around planning.
Wait a minute. Because they wanted to cover their tracks.
Yeah.
Because you were stunned and didn't have a damn clue what
Yeah.
happened to you.
100%.
He was there and the baby was there. And
Yeah. Oh.
I cannot believe this. They didn't want them
Right.
assessing Liam.
Yes. Which she kept saying as if that was my idea and what I wanted. I remember I kept saying, I don't
Was
care.
his clavicles okay?
Nothing I noticed was, but I'm also not.
There is no other
know.
reason why they wouldn't have gone except for that. And that just now clicked to me.
Huh.
There's no other reason. Why wouldn't the father of the baby be there?
Right.
Why wouldn't your husband be transferred with you? Why
Right.
wouldn't the baby have gone with you?
Right. And I hadn't nursed yet. I mean, I was horrified at the idea. And I remember I said, it didn't
Nursing
even matter
would
if
have
I had
helped.
nursed yet. You don't separate me from my baby. So, well, actually, when we got there, so she's harsh with me. She's like, all right, Hannah, we got to get up and we got to go. And she has this like look on her that actually my mom had that look on her face when she was angry. And I remember feeling like it was almost like I was transported back to childhood. Like
That's
I've
weird.
angered my mom
Oh my.
and now I need to like make it better. And so that's, your own childhood trauma coming up there, or my own. But I was like, oh my God, how do I fix this? Like, I just remember that was like in my head. And she's pulling on, she's got a diaper and she's like, come on, we gotta put this on. And I can't lift my leg. And she was standing too far from me. Like, I couldn't even hold her. I'm in the middle of the room. Like, there's nothing for me to grab and hold. This is like maybe an hour and a half after the birth. I'm like,
You're bleeding.
I've
and
been in
haven't
labor
nursed.
for forever. I'm so tired. Like, yeah, I haven't nursed. And so I'm
He had
putting on,
been so hungry.
starving. And I remember she was like, I told you to get formula in the house before the birth just in case something like this happened. You should have done what I said, even though the problems that came up were her fault. So we end up, I'm putting on the diaper and she's being rough, very rough with me physically and like verbally.
Oh my
And I
God.
was like, I was like, I want to ask her why I can't bring Liam, but I'm like afraid of her. And so finally I go, why wouldn't I bring Liam? And she goes, honey, it's too cold out for him. It was July 1st in Pennsylvania. It's 89 degrees outside.
that has me steaming, man. I'm gonna be steaming about this for weeks.
She told you to get formula.
Yeah, before my birth, she's like, you need to get a breast pump, you need to get a formula, you need to get all these things in the house so that if these things go wrong. And I remember telling her, like, I don't want those things.
It's her MO. That's what she's preparing for. Like
Yeah.
that is
Yeah,
what she
I was
was.
like, why are we preparing for that? And C-section
horrible.
talk was brought up all the time, especially in my later appointments right before the birth. I mean, you remember, Noah, I was so stressed out. I was crying when she would leave because I'd be like, why did she say C-section? Why did she say that? And Noah was just like,
That should be the opposite of what a midwife
Oh.
does.
Yeah,
So
dude.
then how long were you at the hospital?
4 hours from when I left to when I got home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And an hour and a half after the birth that you didn't nurse him in when they were yapping.
Yeah, and I tried to, and the birth assistant came over and she was like, oh, your nipples are not long enough. You're not going to be able to nurse. You're going to need these things and nipple shields. Telling me how to do it. And I was kind of like, I know the things, like enough to, I don't need,
Yeah, more hands makes it harder.
Yeah.
And especially somebody you don't know, like a trusted woman
Yeah.
in your life is different to help you breastfeed.
Yeah.
But when some stranger's like, let me just squeeze your nipple.
Yeah. You want to sandwich it like this. And I was like, well, I'm not going to be able to do that. Like, it was just not good. And he hadn't nursed. And I was just so infuriated. And the separation from him.
I can't even imagine.
I remember being afraid to tell people that. Like,
Yeah.
the separation really harmed me. Just walked down out here on the porch.
Yeah.
Down there, got in the car. We drove. I remember she stopped at her house to drop off her baby because she had a 10-month-old with her during the labor and everything. And dropped her off at her house. And then we went to the hospital.
Kept her 10-month-old with her at all times. But let's leave the newborn at home.
Yeah, honestly. We got to the hospital and it was like a switch went off. She went from angry and annoyed to like, let me do whatever I can for you and everything's okay. She has this attitude change, mood changed, everything changed. Super sweet to me in front of the nurses. I mean, she was like, you're going to need to walk inside. And I was like, from the car. And I was like, I don't know if I can. We were just so far from the door. I don't know if I can walk that far. And she's like, fine, I'll go in and see if I can get you a wheelchair.
That's insane.
She's got this demeanor, like her face is like, and her tone, all right, fine, I'll go. It just made me feel like such a burden.
That's so not okay.
So we get inside and they're like, who are you? And she's like, hi, this is Hannah. Da, da, da. And everyone's like, oh, being so sweet to me. It was jarring to go from that feeling in the car to everyone's like thinking of me and looking for me and are you okay? And I was like, oh, I know I'm like being thought of and taken care of. And I remember being in the hospital was a relief. Like I felt safer there than I did at home. And the nurses were so kind to me. Like they were still pushing the crap they push. Like, here, you need to take an antibiotic, honey. You really do. And da-da. But I was treated so kindly. And even when I disagreed with them, it wasn't, great, a difficult one. Oh, a home birth woman, of course, she's putting us through this. I know.
Yeah.
It was like, all right, well, you can talk about it with the doctor. And well, then the doctor comes in and I'm like, oh, she's probably going to like lay into me and treat me like a psychopath. She comes in, she is so sweet, so respectful to me. She's laying into my midwife. She did it in a way that didn't make me feel targeted or feel like she was thinking I was a dumb lady or whatever. Everything she asked me, she was like, honey, where's your baby? Gave birth, where's the baby? And I was like, he's at home. And I remember saying it out loud. I felt even more like a shitty mom. I was watching their faces, like even the nurses that were in there. It was like, they were like, you left the baby at home? Like, why is the baby not with mom? This was not what I wanted. Like, and I have to tell, it was so horrible
Oh my
to
gosh.
say out loud. And and then they're like, where's your husband? Like, or where's the dad is what they're asking.
Yeah.
And of course, they're assuming my husband's a deadbeat because he didn't come with his wife to the hospital. Like, even though he was told he was not allowed to come to the hospital, the doctor starts grilling my midwife on the episiotomy, on all the things that happened. They were saying words I don't know. They were talking about, did you do it this way or did you do it that way? Well, why did you do it that way? Like that, like she was like that at my midwife. I was watching my midwife's face and she was just like twiddling her thumbs. The doctor was so composed and so like, this is not good. Like she just held her jaw like so tight. I remember she announced like, okay, I think it might just be a 3rd degree. And the midwife goes, oh, good. Okay, well, it's not. It's probably not a 4th degree. That's good. And the doctor looked up at her and went, no, not good. Like stern with her. And I was like, thank you. Thank you for defending my tear as not good. And she's like, it doesn't even matter. Like, the point is, this is like a very severe tear. It's going to take me a while to stitch up, and she's going to need to stay here for a few days. She's going to need to go under anesthesia for this. And I'm hearing her talk about these things, and I immediately go, no, 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 no. I can't go under anesthesia, and I'm not going to be here for a few days. My baby's at home. I'm going home tonight. The doctor's like, honey, I really don't recommend that. We can do whatever you want, but I really don't recommend that. It's going to be very painful. I really recommend you go under anesthesia. And I was like, if I take anesthesia, I don't even know. You're not even going to tell me the truth. That's going to go to the baby. I don't know how it's going to affect the baby. I don't know how it's going to affect my nursing, my natural hormones that are supposed to help me get through postpartum. And secondly, you're saying I'd have to stay here for a few days. That's not happening. So I made it very clear, like, I'm not staying here for a few days. So whatever entails that, I'm not doing it. And she goes, okay, well, why don't we start the stitches? And then if you can't handle it, we can take you down to the OR and we'll get you, set up. Which was very relieving because I was very discouraged at my pain tolerance at this point because my midwife made it clear, like, you're not handling birth well. The doctor starts doing these stitches and it was painful, but I think I was already in so much pain. It was kind of like,
Yeah.
whatever.
Right.
I remember I made like kind of a joke before she started. I said something like, I'm sorry if I cry or yell or something. My pain tolerance isn't as high as I thought it was. She started doing the stitches and we got like probably 30 minutes in and she was like, I don't know who told you that you don't have a high pain tolerance. They're crazy. Like I was sitting there laughing, talking to the nurses, making jokes. It was so nice. Like it meant a lot to me that she said that. Not because like that even mattered. It was just because I felt so like put down at that point and discouraged in my body and like I must be a wimp and I must be whatever.
Yeah.
And I was annoying everybody moaning at my birth because I was in pain, whatever. Like I was being too loud or something. Which I also remember with the Benadryl, I was like, are you just sick of hearing my voice? Like, do you just want me to be quiet and go to sleep? Anyway, we leave the hospital and she's in a much better mood. And we get home. I remember thanking her for coming with me. That means a lot to me. And she was like, yeah, it's the right thing to do. I was like, okay. Again, very moving. We get home, get inside, and I walk in and I see my baby in a swing that has been thrown away. It's just not something I wanted. And I don't even know why the darn thing was in my house. Like, I was gone from you and you were sitting in a cold swing. Like, no one was holding you. No one was talking to you. No one was telling you mama's coming back. Like, it really messed with me. I think if I'd walked in and like my husband was holding him or something, I think I would have felt better about it. But my husband was instructed to lay down and sleep. And he had also, to his defense, he like passed out after the birth. Like he was seeing stars.
Yeah.
He was not in a place to be like holding people and whatever. So and my mother-in-law was wonderful. She didn't know that I didn't want that. And she came in the middle of the night and was there for my
Right.
husband. Like, I will never forget that she did that for us. No one had bad intentions. It's just I wasn't there. Yeah, that like shame was very difficult, and guilt and like horror, like the pain I felt on behalf of my child not being with me, not being held, not being talked to. I like still have that, but I have it in a sense of like I remember it so that it will never happen again. And especially with I just felt like his birth, my birth was very chaotic. My experience of me giving birth was very chaotic. So I can only assume his experience of being birthed was incredibly chaotic and frightening and just like painful.
Yeah.
Getting your shoulder stopped, being yanked out. It made me so mad that I wasn't there for him to hold him. And all right, we're good now at least. Like I'm gonna rebuild this. You're gonna be okay. Like I'm gonna regulate you. We're gonna honestly heal each other. That's like a wound I carry around, aside from like physical wounds, of course. But yeah, we got home and I sat down, immediately went to him, pulled him out of that stupid swing, held him, stripped him down. I told Noah before I left, I was like, you see someone put him in a swaddle, you rip him right out of it. Immediately, the midwife's like, let me teach you how to swaddle before I go and take her to the hospital. And I was like looking at him and I was like,
That's wild for a first-time
not-
mom that you
we're not
even
swaddled.
knew any of that.
yeah, like I felt like I really knew my stuff
Exactly.
in a way.
And
Like,
that's what
yeah.
pisses me off even more is that like you did the most a first-time mom ever does,
yeah.
and somebody with a freaking degree still rocked you.
Yeah. There were still more pitfalls I didn't know about. And I would love for other women who are in the same position to hear my story and be like, oh, okay, I wouldn't have thought of that. Okay, I need to ask different questions. Honestly, I don't even know because it's like, I asked her all the questions. She lied. Like some of the stuff was just like, she lied about it. Anyway, there were for sure red flags though that I could have, like now they wouldn't get back past me, but then they absolutely did. So yeah, it's just that first time mom, you don't know. And your mom doesn't tell you stuff where if they do, it's, I went to the hospital, I gave birth, you do these things, you get cervical cancer, you think
Yeah.
those things. It's exciting that we're learning this and can pass it
Yeah.
down to our daughters and
Yeah.
hopefully restart that.
Yeah.
Because yeah, I would never want my daughter or my daughter-in-law or
Right.
anybody, any woman to go through that and feel this way. We got back and I'm trying to nurse him. And I remember she walked over to me and she goes, I'm literally sitting there. I'm back in my game. Remember what you know. Sit down. We're going to nurse this baby. Like, I am not formula feeding this kid. I am going to nurse him. And I sat down, I had that in my mind, and I was like, I will will my boobs to make milk. Like, we will together. I know that sucking makes milk, so you're gonna suck, and like, we're doing this. So I sit him down, I'm like, no one else is in the room to me. I'm in my zone. And I remember she walked over to me and she's like, all right, listen, I need you to listen to me. If you can't nurse, you need to call me. If he doesn't nurse by tonight, if he doesn't nurse within an hour, if he doesn't have this many feeds by this time. And I completely ignored her. I remember thinking, you're an idiot.
Yeah.
And I'm not doing any of
because
that.
what does it matter at this point?
Mm-hmm.
What does your instruction on nursing matter if you took a baby 5.5 hours from mom's breast?
And thank God that I did research breastfeeding and I did know some actual truth. Like I didn't find stuff that's not true because there's a lot of that out there. Make sure you nurse every 2 hours. Wake them up from their naps. You feed on demand. They know.
Yeah.
They're smarter than you. They know. God told them. He designed them to know when to nurse. Babies nurse more or less than other babies. They're fine. I mean,
Right.
he was sleeping 7 hours, 8 hours, something through the night. And if I hadn't known what I knew, I had other moms, their babies would do that and they were freaking out. I need to wake the baby. The baby. And I was like, your baby's huge. Your baby's happy. Your baby's not colicky. Your baby's not fatigued. Why are you freaking out? Why are you waking them up from their sleep that they need? Ultimately, you're letting the Lord lead because he designed them to do this. There's no homework. You don't need to write down nappies, how many diapers they've wet, how many.
Oh my gosh.
It's all good. If your baby's happy and growing, you just need to let them be. So if I hadn't known that, I mean, this midwife was giving me all sorts of crap, and I was like, yeah, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong. Not listening to that. She's like, we're gonna get you a breastfeeding consultant. If I needed that, sure, but we weren't there. I was like, I can do this. So we sat down and I nursed that baby, and we were fine. And still nursing, and yeah, he's great. So I'm very proud of that, because I look back and I'm like, dang, antibiotics, ibuprofen, Tylenol. What else was I on? The Benadryl. the Yeah, at the hospital. They gave me an IV of antibiotics that I said no to, and then she came in and she's like, well, do you want an infected butthole? And then it'll get in here and this,
an
and you're
infected
gonna get.
butthole?
And I was like, why don't I just wait till I
No.
have an infected butthole and come in? And she was like, no, that's not an option. You can't. You're never gonna poop again normally.
I was reading this post a while ago on this Facebook like birth page, and it talked about how a midwife had inserted her hand in the woman's butthole while the baby was coming out. And the post was like, I felt very like she didn't ask me. She just kind of did it. And I was like, that's assault. Nobody can ever just stick their hands inside of you whenever they want to, just because they have some type of license.
That's right.
I was so taken back by why anybody would need to stick their hands, now not in a vagina, but a woman's butt. Like, why? And then this other midwife was like, well, there's a maneuver that we can do if the baby isn't descending right. And I'm like, have her change positions. Why are you inserting yourself into her anatomy? Why are you doing that?
I've seen OBs do it.
What?
Yeah, I've seen OBs do it. They do it, and it's weird. They'll do it like one finger in and then pinch the perineum.
No.
So like thumb and vagina, and then they'll pinch the perineum to prevent tearing. To like help hold it together while baby comes out. It's freaking everything about obstetrics and apparently midwifery is wild. It's insane. It is control. It is ego. It is the need to manipulate and like, oh, thank God my finger was in your butt.
Sadistic, ritualistic abuse.
Everyone's watching my social media to make sure I never speak about this.
I have somebody watching my social
Guys.
media and reporting me all the time. Yeah, the person that reported me to the licensing board, that's from my social media and then reporting me.
Heck 'em.
Heck 'em.
Heck 'em. I love that.
All right, that is heavy, my guy. That is heavy. Heavier than this.
Heavier than this.
Not
Chubby
we make light of it now, but only because we're crazy Christians that use comedy for everything stuff.
Coping mechanism.
Yeah, that is heavy. But you're right that women do need to know this story. There is a story that needs to be told from these types of situations, because there is a whole lot of these situations happening that are never spoke about.
Yeah.
And you have women that go through stuff like this and will live for the rest of their lives not realizing, oh, it wasn't me.
Right.
So it is extremely admirable that you are speaking about it without fear of being reprimanded by somebody. Now, now that you've got past it, realize the importance of needing to speak on it for other women's sake. It is extremely admirable, especially living in the same community as these people.
Which is so difficult, because I see them around town, or people mention them because people will think, oh, Hannah Homebirth, she's in the home birth community, she'll want to hear about this. I hired so-and-so. And I'm like, run. That's not happy news to me. I remember after my birth, it was like maybe 2 or 3 days after, and I woke up in the morning and it was early, like I was still asleep, and I went to nurse the baby in a chair. And I remember sitting on my hip, trying not to sit down. Anyway, I'm nursing him, and I remember the song came to mind. It was "I Will Not Boast in Anything." How great the Father's love, that moon. And I was just humming it to myself. The verse, "I will not boast in anything," really convicted me, because it was in that moment that I realized if my birth had gone objectively well, like my definition of well, I was so pumped up for my birth. I was like, this is going to go so well. I know all the things. I would not have thanked God. I know 100% certain I would not have thanked God for my birth that had gone well. I would have been like, wow, I'm so amazing. Let me tell everybody about my home birth because I'm so good. And I wouldn't have even said God's name. I wouldn't have been like, God gave this birth to me. He allowed this to happen. I would have been like, I'm so amazing. And because it had gone badly, which is funny because it could have gone the other way. I could have been like, it went bad. God's forsaken me. Like, this is horrible. And blamed him. I recognize that it actually brought me closer to him because I decided in the midst of suffering and like a trial and this didn't go well and maybe I failed. My body didn't fail me, but my responsibility and who I hire, who I have in the room, I failed. I hired the wrong person. Like I, gave in to things, even though I hired the wrong person, I still could have said no. I could have held my ground. So ultimately, I took responsibility for those things. So I failed in that sense. I didn't stand up to her when she didn't let me take my baby, but in the midst of like, okay, I see where I messed up or I made mistakes or whatever. And next time I can do this differently, navigate this better, watch out for pitfalls. I want to be like Job, that in the midst of that, you turn and you praise the Lord and you thank him. Of course, you want to remember there's a reason. Like, there's a reason I didn't meet Beth. Maybe I wouldn't have been ready to hear what you had to say. I don't know. I'm so sure I would have been, but I can't because I don't know. I'm not, it didn't happen that way. And because I'm open to you now, because I see it so clearly, I can share with my friends and maybe save their. But the point is, I'm sure that God will use it for a reason,
Right.
even if I never fully see it. But I also can recognize I was drawn to the Lord more through that birth going badly than I would have been if it had gone well. So that was comforting in a way. Still sucked, but I was like, because you want to think, oh, if it had gone well, I would have praised God. I would have thought of him. I would have given him the glory, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't have.
Hannah, thank you for sharing your story.
Yeah, thank you for having me to share it.
And just learning more about everything that happened to you. And you still have this chirpy attitude, but you're bolder. You're not going to put up with anything now.
Thank you so much for joining our podcast and listening to Hannah's story. We are Grace in the Growth because there is grace within the growth, okay? We learn and we do better when we know better. So we'll be praying for Hannah. We're praying for all of the listeners, praying this impacts you. And if you know somebody that this story could impact or help, please share it. Follow us on the social medias. If you too want to share your birth story, there's a link somewhere in our bio. And if you want it, message us or something and we'll send it to you.